She said it softly, almost like she was talking to herself. I can't sleep alone. I didn't answer right away. There was something about the way she said it. Not dramatic, not flirtatious. Just quiet, stripped down. Like she wasn't asking for company as much as she was asking for a pause in whatever ache kept her awake at night. Her name was Elena. I'd known her for a few months, sort of. She lived across the hall from me in this half-renovated apartment building that always smelled faintly of paint and coffee. We'd exchanged polite nods, shared a few small conversations by the mailbox. She always had that calm, unhurried air about her. Like someone who used to live a bigger life and now preferred smaller spaces. Tonight, though, she looked different. Her hair was a little undone, a loose sweater hanging off one shoulder. She stood at her door holding a mug she'd forgotten to drink from, steam long gone. You don't have to, she said after a beat, eyes flicking down as if to take it back. I could have walked away. I should have. But there was something in her tone. Not loneliness exactly, more like fatigue that had learned to hide behind grace. I'm not tired anyway, I said. That wasn't true. I'd been exhausted. But the second she opened her door wider, the hallway light spilling across her bare feet, I forgot everything else. Inside, her place was dim except for a lamp near the couch. Soft amber light pooling across the room, catching the edges of her face. The air smelled faintly of citrus and the kind of perfume that lingers longer than intended. Sorry about the mess, she said, though there wasn't much of one. Just books, half-folded laundry, an unmade bed in the corner you could glimpse through the open door. She sat on the couch, curling one leg beneath her, and motioned toward the other end. Just sit, please. I did. The space between us felt too small for how quiet it was. For a while, we didn't talk. She scrolled absently through her phone, pretending to read something. I noticed the small tremor in her hand when she set it down. You ever get used to being by yourself? She asked suddenly.
I glansed over.
I don't know. Maybe you just get better at pretending it doesn't bother you. That made her smile. Faintly, but it stayed longer than I expected. That sounds like something I'd say. She leaned back, head against the cushion, her gaze unfocused but warm. I could feel the distance between us narrowing, not because either of us moved, but because the silence began to carry a different kind of weight. Her sweater slipped a little lower on her shoulder. She didn't fix it. My eyes caught the subtle line of her collarbone, the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Do you always overthink things? She asked. I laughed under my breath. You have no idea. Her eyes met mine then, steady, unreadable. I like that. There was a pause, long enough that I forgot to look away. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. Outside, a car passed, headlights flashing briefly through the blinds. She shifted closer, her knee brushing mine. Not an accident, not exactly deliberate either. I didn't mean to make this weird, she whispered. You didn't. Another silence. Then, barely audible, stay, just for tonight. I opened my mouth to say what, I don't even know, when there was a knock at her door. She froze. So did I. The lamp hummed faintly in the stillness. Her eyes flicked toward the door, then back to me wide, caught somewhere between fear and something else entirely. And in that suspended moment, neither of us moved. The knock never came again. Whoever it was must have changed their mind, or maybe neither of us had imagined it right. Still, the air between us felt different now, more fragile. Elena exhaled and stood, wrapping her arms around herself. Probably just the neighbor, she said, too quickly. Her voice tried for calm, but the tremor was still there. I nodded, though I didn't believe her. You get a lot of visitors this late? She shot me a look that was part amusement, part warning. Not lately. That lately hung in the air longer than it should have. She turned toward the kitchen, poured water into the same mug she'd been holding earlier. The soft clink of glass filled the silence. You live alone, right? I asked, then regretted it. Yes, she said, back still to me. For a while now. She took a sip, then added quieter. Long enough that it stopped feeling temporary. She didn't elaborate, but she didn't need to. There was a picture on her counter, a younger version of her with a man and a little girl. The frame was turned slightly away from the room, as if by accident. "You were married?" Her shoulders tensed. She set the mug down. "Everyone was something once." The answer was soft, but it landed hard. I wanted to ask more, but the question felt unfair. I was half her age, and she'd lived entire lives before I'd figured out how to start one. I didn't want to seem like a kid poking at her wounds, so instead I said nothing. She came back to the couch and sat beside me again, a little closer this time. Her perfume brushed the air between us. Faint, warm, familiar. "You don't talk much, do you?" she said. "I just don't want to say the wrong thing." Her lips curved slightly. "Then maybe don't think so hard about it." She reached over, just to adjust the throw blanket near my shoulder. But her hand lingered, fingertips grazing my arm in a way that didn't feel accidental. My breath caught before I could hide it. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. For a second, neither of us moved. She was older, yes, but not in a way that made her seem distant. More like she'd learned to wear her age like something earned, not endured. There were small lines around her eyes, the kind that came from laughing or staying up too late. Her hair wasn't perfect. It was real, and for some reason, that made everything about her harder to look away from. "I shouldn't," she started, then stopped herself. "Shouldn't what?" Her hand dropped from my arm. "Make things complicated." The room felt smaller suddenly. My heartbeat was too loud in my ears. "Maybe things already are." That made her smile again. Faint, but with something behind it this time. "You're too young to sound like that." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe you just don't sound old enough." She laughed quietly, the sound short and genuine. Then she did something small but seismic. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Not for long, just a few seconds. But it was enough to burn the shape of it into memory. When she finally sat up, she didn't apologize. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not leaving." The lamp flickered once, a faint hum filling the silence again. She looked at me, eyes searching, uncertain. And though neither of us said it, something between us had already shifted, the kind of shift you can't take back. The next night it happened again. I heard her door open before I saw her. A quiet click in the hallway, then her voice. Low, unsure. "You're still awake?" I was sitting on the floor by my own door, half reading, half waiting without meaning to. "Yeah," I said, setting the book aside. "Couldn't sleep." She smiled faintly, like she didn't believe me. Me neither. The distance between our doors felt smaller than usual. The air carried the faint smell of rain, sharp, clean, and cold against the warmth coming from her apartment. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. Inside, the lights were dim again. A record played softly, old jazz that crackled in the quiet. She wore a loose white shirt and jeans, barefoot, hair still damp from a shower. I noticed her hands trembling slightly as she poured tea. She caught me looking and said, "It's the cold." It wasn't. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. The silence pressed against us, thick and alive. Every small sound, the clink of her spoon, the soft brush of her sleeve, seemed amplified. "So," she said finally, breaking it, "you told anyone you hang around with your neighbor this much?" Her tone was light, but her eyes weren't. I shook my head. "No one asks." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good. Let's keep it that way." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten, not because of secrecy, but because of how sure she seemed that this was temporary. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen and froze. The name flashing was Daniel. She flipped the phone face down without answering. "Boyfriend?" I asked before I could stop myself. She let out a small, humorless laugh. "Ex-husband." He forgets what that word means sometimes. Silence again. The music filled the gap for us. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "Don't be." She took a sip of her tea, hands steady now. "It's just messy. And you—" She stopped mid-sentence, searching for the right word. "What?" "You make it harder to keep things uncomplicated." I didn't know what to do with that. I wanted to touch her. Not out of impulse, but out of recognition, as if something in both of us had been waiting to be noticed again. But I didn't move. Then the power flickered. The room dimmed to near dark. She let out a soft laugh, almost relief. Guess the storm's catching up. The lamp went out completely. We sat in the dark, the faint blue glow from outside tracing her outline. "Can you?" she started, and in reaching for the candle on the table, her hand brushed mine. We both stopped. Her fingers stayed there, light, deliberate. Neither of us spoke. The sound of rain against the window filled the space where words should have been. She drew a slow breath, close enough that I could feel it against my cheek. "This isn't supposed to," she whispered. But she didn't finish. The candle caught flame, throwing a soft glow between us. Her face was inches from mine now, eyes wide, searching, scared and wanting at the same time. I could have closed the gap. So could she. Neither of us did. The thunder rolled outside, long and low. When the lights flickered back on, we were still there, too close, too still, pretending we hadn't almost done something we couldn't explain. The next time I saw her, she wasn't herself. Elena opened the door halfway, like she'd been expecting me but wasn't sure she should be. Her eyes were tired, her voice smaller than usual. "You shouldn't come tonight." I hesitated in the hallway. Did I do something? No, she shook her head, brushing a hand through her hair. That's the problem. I didn't understand, but I stepped inside anyway. She didn't stop me. The apartment was darker than before. No music this time, just the steady tick of rain against the window. A bottle of wine sat open on the counter, one glass half full. "I thought I could handle this," she said quietly back to me. "Just company. Just talking. And you can't." She turned, eyes sharp now, glinting under the dim light. "You don't get it. You're young. You think this is some harmless thing between neighbors. That's not what I think." "Then what is it?" she demanded. Her voice cracked on the last word. "Because I can't decide if I'm being foolish or—" She stopped herself. I moved closer, slow, until I could see the faint tremor in her jaw. "Or what?" Her breath hitched. "Or selfish." I swallowed hard. The space between us hummed like static. "Maybe you're allowed to be." That pulled a small laugh from her, short, unsteady. "You say things like that, and I—" She stopped again, shaking her head as if trying to reset herself. I reached up, without planning to, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move away. My fingers grazed her cheek, and she closed her eyes, just for a heartbeat too long. When she opened them again, something had shifted. The fight in her was still there, but it wasn't aimed at me anymore. It was inward. "You don't know what you're asking for," she whispered. "I'm not asking." The air between us grew heavy, that kind of silence that doesn't last but feels infinite. She stepped closer, enough that I could feel the warmth from her skin through the thin fabric of her shirt. Her hand came up, resting lightly on my chest, fingers curling in as if to test the distance she still had control over. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "If I start something, I won't be able to stop." "Then don't start it," I said, though my voice betrayed me. She looked up, eyes glinting, torn between defiance and fear. "You make it sound that simple." "It could be." She let out a shaky breath. "You really believe that, don't you?" I didn't answer. My hand found hers, still pressed to my chest. Her pulse was racing beneath my fingertips. "Elena?" I started, and that one word was enough. Her name hanging there like a question neither of us knew how to answer. The thunder outside rolled closer, vibrating through the walls. Her eyes flicked down to my lips, then back up again. The space between us disappeared until all I could feel was her breath against my mouth, warm, trembling, hesitant. Then a phone rang. Loud, sharp, real. She flinched back as if the sound had burned her. The spell broke. Her phone glowed from the counter. Daniel again. We both stared at it, the sound filling the room like a warning neither of us wanted to hear. When she finally reached for it, her hand was shaking. And all I could do was stand there, heart pounding, knowing whatever happened next would change everything. The call went unanswered. She didn't move for a long time after it stopped ringing. Just stood there, fingers still hovering above the phone, the glow fading to black. I waited for her to say something, anything, but the silence grew so thick it almost felt alive. "Elena," I started. She turned suddenly, eyes sharp. Not angry, just cornered. "He knows," she said quietly. "What?" "Daniel. He came by earlier. I didn't answer the door, but he left a note." Her voice cracked a little. "He knows someone's been here." I took a step closer, instinctively. "So what if he does?" She let out a soft, bitter laugh. "You don't understand. He doesn't let go. He thinks everything still belongs to him, even what he's already broken." The word broken hung in the air. I could see her hands trembling as she spoke, the way her shoulders pulled tight like she was bracing for a blow that hadn't come yet. "Did he hurt you?" I asked, my voice lower than I meant. Her eyes flicked up, startled but soft. "Not the way you mean." She looked away. "He just made me small, little by little, until I forgot what it felt like to be wanted for the right reasons." That hit somewhere deep. She didn't need to say more. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away this time. Her fingers were cold, but she didn't let go. She studied me, long, unguarded, and then said something that made my pulse stumble. "You remind me of how I used to be, before everything got complicated." "Maybe it doesn't have to be complicated," I said. She smiled faintly, sad and knowing. "Everything is, eventually." Then she hesitated, her thumb brushing my wrist like she wanted to memorize the pulse there. "You shouldn't have come back tonight." "I think I had to." She let out a breath, half a sigh, half surrender. "Then you should know something before you decide what that means." Her voice was quiet now, but steady. "The first night I asked you to stay, it wasn't about not wanting to sleep alone. I just wanted to see if I could still make someone want to." Her words hit like heat. Not cruel, just honest in a way that stripped the air bare between us. I didn't know whether to be hurt or relieved. Maybe both. "Did you?" I asked finally. Her gaze held mine, unwavering. "Yes, that's the problem." Neither of us moved. The room felt too small for what she just said. My heartbeat thudded against the silence. She stepped back, bumping lightly against the edge of the table. I crossed the distance before I even realized it, stopping just inches away. "And now," her breath caught. "Now, I don't know how to stop wanting you." That confession landed between us like a spark. Outside, wind pushed against the window, the night pressing closer. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it. The fear, the pull, the decision forming behind her eyes. "Elena, don't," she whispered. "If you touch me right now, I won't stop you." And still, she didn't step away. She didn't move. Neither did I. The air between us pulsed like a living thing, thick enough to taste. Rain beat harder against the window, a steady rhythm under the silence that stretched between us. The kind of silence that holds every word you're too afraid to say. Her eyes met mine, unflinching this time. "You should go," she whispered, but her voice betrayed her. Soft, shaking, not conviction, just self-defense. I took one slow step forward, then another. "Do you want me to?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The question hung there like smoke. "I can't promise you anything," she said finally. "Not a future, not something easy." I didn't ask for easy. Her breath caught. I could see her shoulders trembling, the smallest shift in her stance, wanting to step back but not doing it. "You don't know what you're giving up," she said. "Neither do you." For a long second, nothing moved. Then she reached out, maybe to push me away, maybe to steady herself, and her fingers brushed my chest. The contact was small, fleeting, but it set off something deep and unstoppable. Her hand lingered there, palm flat now, and I felt her heartbeat through the space between us. Fast, uncertain, real. "Elena," I said quietly. She looked up. Her face was close enough that I could see the faint line of tiredness beneath her eyes, the flicker of hesitation that made her so painfully human. "This is wrong," she whispered. "Then tell me to leave." She didn't. Instead, she let out a shaky laugh that wasn't quite laughter. "You don't make it easy to be good. Maybe we've both been good long enough." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, the wall between us cracked for good. She stepped closer, her forehead brushing mine. Just that, the barest touch, almost nothing, but it felt like the world tilted around it. "No kiss. No ruse." Just breath shared in the narrow space that used to keep us safe. "I don't want to ruin you," she said. "You won't." She closed her eyes. "Someone always gets hurt. Maybe that's the price." The words came out low, rough, more truth than courage. Her hands slid to the back of my neck, fingers curling lightly, and I felt her breathing change. A trembling inhale that almost broke into a sob. When she spoke again, it was barely a whisper. "Then stay." The world outside disappeared. The rain, the wind, the ticking clock, all of it blurred into quiet. She leaned her forehead against mine, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. There was no grand confession, no perfect moment. Just two people who'd run out of reasons to pretend they didn't need each other. Her voice came, small but sure. "Now you know." And I did. Everything between us, the wanting, the fear, the ache of it, finally made sense. Not perfect, not safe, just real. The rain had finally stopped by morning. The quiet that followed felt softer somehow. Not empty, just steady. The kind of stillness that comes after everything's already been said, even if most of it was spoken without words. Elena was sitting by the window, a blanket pulled around her shoulders. The gray light touched her face, catching on the lines time had left there. Not flaws, just proof. I watched her for a moment before she noticed me. "You didn't leave," she said, voice still husky from the night before. "You asked me to stay." She smiled, small, tired, genuine. "I didn't think you would." "I didn't either," I admitted. She laughed softly, shaking her head. "That's the thing about you. You keep surprising me." I sat beside her, close enough that our knees touched. She didn't pull away. Outside, drops slid lazily down the glass, catching the first bit of sun pushing through the clouds. For a while, neither of us spoke. There was no need. Then she said, almost to herself, "You know people won't understand this. Maybe they don't have to." Her eyes found mine, cautious but open now. "You're young. You still have time to find someone who—" "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't make this smaller than it is." She looked away, lips pressed together, fighting that old instinct to protect herself. Then she reached for my hand. Slow, uncertain, but she didn't let go. Her palm was warm, soft against mine. I could feel her pulse, steady now. "I spent so many years thinking I missed my chance at this," she said. "That maybe people like me didn't get another start. Maybe you just needed the right reason to try again," I said. Her eyes glistened, but she smiled through it. "And you think you're that reason?" I shrugged. "I think I'm someone who sees you." That stopped her. The words landed in the quiet between us, filling it with something real and fragile. She leaned over, resting her head against my shoulder. The blanket slipped, brushing my arm. "You make it sound so easy. Maybe it can be, if we let it." She closed her eyes, a slow exhale leaving her chest. "You know this won't be simple." "I don't need simple," I said. "Just honest." She laughed again, softer this time, more at peace. "Honest I can do." Outside, the light shifted, gold now, warm across the room. We sat like that, her head on my shoulder, our fingers loosely intertwined. No rush, no pretending we hadn't crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Just quiet understanding. At one point, she whispered, "You make me feel like I'm allowed to start over." I turned, pressing a kiss to her forehead, gentle, grounding. "Then let's start there." She nodded, eyes closing again, a smile ghosting across her lips. "Just don't disappear." "I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?